We are going to win this war, and we are going to win the peace that follows.
Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining.
My name is Eric. I'm 25 years old.
Hi, my name is Chris Hans.
My name is William Zappas. That's Z-A-P-P-A-S.
I joined the service at 21 because school wasn't really my thing, and I was looking to do something bigger than myself.
I served in the United States Marine Corps from 2004 to 2009 as an infantryman, and I am currently the Veterans Enrollment Counselor here at Marymount.
I was going to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then I decided that I wanted to volunteer because I didn't want to be drafted.
I joined the Marine Corps because it was the elite of all the branches, I thought, and it turned out it is.
I decided to join the Marine Corps because I wanted to fight. I mean, if you're going to fight, you want to go in with the guys that you think are going to be the best. There was a war, so I really had no illusions about what was going to happen when I joined, so I kind of knew what I was getting into.
When I joined the ROTC is the Officers Training School, and I joined that, and then I became an officer. I didn't want to be an enlisted man.
First, I talked to a recruiter when I wanted to join. It was a long process. It took about a year or so, and then I went to boot camp at MCRD San Diego, and that's Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego.
Boot camp was in San Diego. It was in MCRD San Diego.
It was 12 at night. I didn't sleep much that night, and it didn't stop from there. We did the whole 13-week program, and it seemed like sleep kind of never fit into the schedule for the rest of the 4 years.
It wasn't bad. I mean, looking back, it wasn't that bad. But up until that point, yeah, it was one of the worst things that I'd done. But you know, going through everything else, boot camp was the easy part.
It seemed like a challenging time at first, but turns out it was the easiest time of my service.
I spent 3 years overseas between Europe and Asia, because I was involved in 2 invasions. The one was in Okinawa, the other was in France.
My first deployment was in 2005 to Southeast Asia, Okinawa, Thailand, Philippines, Guam, Korea, Japan, places like that. And then my second deployment was to Iraq in Ramadi, and then the third deployment was to Iraq in Baghdad. I
was sent overseas to Afghanistan on New Year's of 2013.
The first experiences that I had when I first went into service was a lot of shock, total culture shock. I had no idea what I was getting into with that one. Thought I knew, but of course I didn't. Kind of running around in a daze for the first, it seemed like 6 months. I don't really remember. Everything seemed like it just kind of ran together. But after that, I just remember a lot of training. Just lots and lots and lots of training.
And the first thing I know, I'm out in the Atlantic, ready to go overseas. And that's the time when Normandy was invaded, while I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
My feeling getting to Afghanistan was excitement. I had never been on a combat deployment before, and being in the Marine Corps, that's what you train to do, that's what everybody wants to do. And so this was an opportunity that I thought could only be once in a lifetime. So I went to Afghanistan on New Year's, and it was really a life changer from there.
When you serve in the Navy, you have to go where they tell you to go, and that's it. And I didn't mind at all because we were at war.
When I was in Afghanistan, well, my whole time in the Marine Corps, I was a tanker. Yeah, I was a tanker. It's the best job in the Marine Corps.
I was a navigator, and then I became officer of the deck, which means I took care of all the maintenance on the ship.
I was a rifleman. I was an infantryman. That's...
It entailed everything from daily maintenance. There's 4 jobs on a tank. You got the driver, the loader, the gunner, and the tank commander. I was originally a loader, so I was loading all the main gun rounds into the main gun. But on deployment, there was not enough spaces available. So when one opened up as a driver, I took it and went as a driver.
Painting, getting rid of the rust, and be sure that all the guys, we had, I think, 55 guys on our ship. And be sure that they were taking care of where they lived and so forth.
As a rifleman, my job is to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, and to repel the enemy's assault by fire and close combat. So basically what you do is you shoot and blow stuff up. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. You're the guys that are walking the streets every day. That's what we do. We walk the streets, somebody wants to shoot, and we shoot back.
I saw a decent amount of combat in Afghanistan. We spend like a 2-week period when you first get there, getting acclimated and getting all your gear, and then they send you to your FOB, which is a forward operating base. Ours was in a little town called Cherghazi.
I was in Ramadi for 8 months. I was in Baghdad for 7 months, and I was in Southeast Asia for 7 months.
We invaded southern France. I was on an LST, and I'll tell you what an LST is, a landing ship transport. And our ship would go right to the beach, land right on the beach, and they would let the ramp down, and everybody got off.
I mean, the hardest part about being in the service was, obviously being away from family is a tough thing. I don't know. There were a lot of hard parts. My daughter being born when I was in Iraq was a hard one. But yeah, I think the family separation was the worst for me. And then coming back and trying to, jump back into that life. But yeah, that was probably the hardest thing. That, and then you have the when when I left the second time, she was 2, and I came back and she had no idea who I was and didn't know. She wasn't even 2 yet. She was probably like a year and a half when I came back, and she didn't even know who I was. So it was kind of hit you right in the feelings. I think that's what made the call for me to say, I'm done. It's over.
The hardest part about being in Afghanistan was the fear of not knowing what was going to happen next, and which also brought on excitement, but I think I worried too a lot about my family, and that they didn't know what was going on, and every time they called you had to lie to them, and you just hoped that if you were on the phone with them at that given time that there was no shooting going on, no explosives going on. You just wanted a nice little quick phone call and get back to work.
Well, by far Iraq is the worst place I've been to, but I would say it's a toss-up between Ramadi and Baghdad. They both had their own individual issues that were going on. It's just too different. It's just a different environment. Same enemy, just a different way of thinking and a different way of doing things. I can't say that one was really worse than the other. But
The Germans were on the mountain, up in the mountains, and they spotted us, and they spotted the other ship, and they bombed the other ship and completely killed everybody on 138 people.
The hardest time about my deployment was, I would say, the first day, the first day on my base when I hit an IED. It got clocked in stateside as a 280-pound IED, which, just for some reference, a 5-pound IED, you know, if you step on one of those, you're losing a leg or two. You know, anything above 10 pounds, you're looking at double amps or death or something worse. But luckily we were in a tank, and it got clocked in at 280. But that day was tough. When we hit it, I couldn't feel anything from my chest down, and we were medevaced by a helicopter to the field hospital, and we were there until I got feeling back in my body. The rest of my crew, one of them ended up going to Germany. He suffered blood clots throughout his whole body, which is kind of a blessing in disguise, because they weren't there they were there when we hit the IED. So if we hadn't hit it, he probably would have dropped dead within 2 weeks anyways.
We ended up rendezvousing and getting ready to go into Okinawa, and all of a sudden they dropped the bomb, the atomic bomb.
Another really tough time was May 13th of 2013, when our base got hit by the suicide car. It was a suicide vehicle-borne IED. Yeah, that one was pretty bad. I had fallen. They had the whole base surrounded, which we had no idea. 1 minute we're sitting there I was wearing basketball shorts and flip-flops, and next thing you know, all hell breaks loose, and you can see bullets landing while you're running to the tank right in front of you. You hear them whizzing past your head, and it was probably one of the worst days, but probably looking back, also one of the most adrenaline-filled days that I've ever had, and that's what a lot of guys are looking for when we get back into the civilian world.
My roommate was a guy by the name of Reisner. He was 6'4.5". He was my roommate. We roomed together on the ship, and I made a lot of friends because I'm very sociable.
You don't really remember anything good that happened. You always remember, BSing with your friends, playing cards. You don't have a cell phone in Afghanistan, no computer. You learn a lot about each other. They're my best friends that I'll have throughout the rest of my life. I'm about to get married. They're going to be all my groomsmen.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
I still stay in contact with a few of the guys that I serve with, and it's a relationship that's closer than anything that you can really describe. They talk about it like a brotherhood, but it's more than that. It's not just a brotherhood. There's so much more to it. But yeah, I still keep in contact with those guys, and I probably will forever.
Coming home from Afghanistan was quite the experience. I'll never forget, we landed at March Air Force Base, which is in California, and I thought I was so excited to be home. We all got on a bus and made the 2-hour drive to 29 Palms. It was 2 a.m, and when we pulled up, I instantly got this pit in my stomach, I don't want to be back home. I want to be back overseas. That's what we had done for so long.
One of the harder things to do is dealing with people that say, oh, thank you for your service and all this stuff. But let's not forget, I volunteered for this. I did this. This was my choice to do. Nobody forced me to do this. It's not like I wasn't drafted and said, hey, go defend your country. I said, hey, this is what I want to do, and I want to do this.
The transition was difficult at times, because you have to understand that not everybody's trying to kill you again, and a noise is just a noise. It doesn't always have to be a gunshot or a bomb going off.
I never found it to be really that hard to assimilate back in, I guess. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't feel like anybody knew kind of what was going on, so I just kind of left it alone. You know, when people would come up and ask, they'd ask you things, you know, oh, what was like, how was everything? Oh, everything, you know. Did you kill anybody? All this, you know, crazy stuff, and after a while, it just gets, you know, it gets really old. You just, oh yeah, it was, you know, it was hot, you know, yeah, it was sandy, it was dusty, yeah, it was pretty stupid. That's basically what your conversations kind of turn into. Yeah, it was hot, dusty, stupid.
For any post-traumatic thing like other guys did, because the only close call we had was the Germans bombed the ship next to us, and it was right. We were both going in on the beach at the same time, and they decided to hit this ship next to us, and that was a close call. It could have been me. So I figured I was lucky to be alive.
You have a lot of people that come up to you and say, oh, I think I understand what you went through, and I'm a very empathetic person, and yeah, I understand, I get it. Believe me, you know, but you know, it's cool. You can watch a surgery on screen all day long, but when you have to go in there and cut it and do it, it's a world of difference. And I think that's what people don't quite understand.
People look at you, if they know your experiences, they look at you that you're some war-torn PTSD having combat veteran who's just psycho, but really we enjoy it, and that's what we found pleasure in for so long.
Even if we're, you know, functioning members of society that, you know, may have issues here and there with other things, but I mean, still push through and do what we need to do. And I think that's the hard thing, is most of us just kind of want to move on and do what we need to do, and not be defined by something like that.
The transition process is part of understanding it. Is you have to realize you're a civilian again. You're not back in the Marine Corps. You're not in Afghanistan. You're not in combat. You need to understand that life doesn't stop. Our lives were changed, but not anymore.
For me, it was trying to deal with the stuff that happened, and get back into realizing, hey, you know, I'm not always there. I mean, you have things that, you know, every once in a while you have things that'll intrude on your memory and, you know, pop up, like you'll have a flashback or you'll have a something, but it's just, you know, it depends on how you personally deal with it a lot of times.
When I got back from Afghanistan and when I got out of the Marine Corps, my biggest support was always my family. I'm a mama's boy. My mom was always there to, if you never need to talk about any traumatic experiences, or she's always looking into like all these vet groups, and she actually contacted Chris at Marymount and Chris called me at work while I was still in the Marine Corps and said, oh, I hear you're getting out pretty soon, you should probably come to school. And next thing I know, I'm here. But yeah, my mom just has done everything since I've been back.
For me, the symptoms of PTSD that I had were more of, you know, you get the jumpiness, the heightened alertness, you can never relax, always wanting to know what's going on, you know, and just you put yourself into such an environment, and you engross yourself in that, and it's everything about you. When you come back and you try to you know, do something normal, like even driving down the road, you know, and then there's, you know, a box that's in the middle of the road that fell off a truck or something, and you swerve and almost hit somebody, and you're losing it, and you just reacted. It's not because you know you saw and actually thought, you know, you had time to think about it. You just did it, and that's what kind of, for me, that's what threw me off more. It wasn't that I thought about something and said, oh shit, I got to do that. It was done and it was over, and all of a sudden now you're just sitting there and your heart's racing, you're sweating, something's going on, and you're having nightmares. You wake up in the middle of the night with sweats, or you just can't go back to sleep, or you can't go to sleep at all because you're afraid of, you just get sick of waking up in the middle of the night. Not afraid of anything, but you just get sick of waking up in the middle of the night, and then so you just don't go back to sleep. That's kind of where it went. Sometimes you'll just get sad, and certain, times of, I don't know what it is. It's just sometimes things just kind of hit you, and you just can't cope with it anymore for whatever reason.
When I did get back from Afghanistan, PTSD symptoms weren't really there. They showed up when I got out of the Marine Corps. I was diagnosed with PTSD. From what I gather, symptoms are easier to deal with if you're around combat vets. If you're with your friends and guys who have been through it, you kind of have that feeling of, well, if something does happen at this restaurant, which it shouldn't, but if it does, I got a whole group of guys here ready to think like I do and move like I do. But yeah, PTSD is, in my opinion, is a day-to-day kind of thing. Some days are good, some days are bad, but you just have to get the best of it and not let PTSD get the best of you.